Landon Donovan went on national radio in April 2026 and said youth soccer in America is a disaster. He talked about clubs charging crazy fees, everything being about winning, kids getting left behind. He said fixing it is his next passion project. He's not wrong, but I don't think he's looking at the whole picture. Because the problem he's describing, the over-monetized, badge-chasing, private trainer for every 10-year-old version of youth soccer, that's one America. There's another one, and it looks nothing like that. A few days ago, I heard from a former teammate. We grew up playing soccer together in rural Northern California in the early 1990s. He now lives in San Diego County. His daughter plays for a top academy program down there. He reached out after listening to our podcast, an episode about cancellations, forfeits, and the cultural breakdown happening in competitive youth soccer at the grassroots level. He said something that stopped me. He said that their problems are the polar opposite of ours. No cancellations, there's too many games, too many clubs, too many leagues, private trainers everywhere, multiple clubs competing for the same players, club hopping, badge chasing, everything structured, everything monetized, an unhealthy culture of constant training and keeping up. Then he said, I think what Landon Donovan was talking about is probably more of what's happening here than what you deal with up there. He's right, and that distinction matters. Because when people talk about the crisis in American youth soccer, they're almost always talking about San Diego. About the overbuilt, overpriced, overstructured version of the sport that exists in suburban and urban markets with money and density. What they're not talking about much is Willits or Ukiah, or every rural community in this country where the problem isn't too much, it's not enough. Not enough players to fill a roster, not enough coaches to run a program, not enough money to keep the lights on, not enough infrastructure to give kids a pathway that goes anywhere. Two completely different diseases, both killing the sport, and almost nobody talking about the second. We're based in Ukiah, California, a couple hours from Oakland, about 2.5 hours from Sacramento. Not remote by any reasonable definition. Over the last 2 seasons, our U19 girls have absorbed 12 forfeits from opposing clubs. 12 games scheduled, confirmed, and canceled. This past weekend, all 3 of our older girls' teams had home games forfeited on the same day. 3 different clubs, 1 weekend. For a rural program fielding players from 2 counties, some of our Humboldt players drive 3 hours to get to Ukiah for home games. A forfeit isn't a scheduling inconvenience. It's a concrete cost to real families and real kids. It's a state cup moment canceled by text message at 8:30 the night before. The technical director of one of the clubs involved said it plainly in an email. We cannot make anyone get in the car, he said. He's not wrong. You can't force families to honor a commitment. But that's not leadership. That's surrender. The problem isn't logistics. The problem is culture. Nobody built a commitment culture at the front end. Nobody sat families down at registration and named what they're actually signing up for. And when you don't do that, families make individual calculations every weekend. And when enough families make that calculation the same way, a team forfeits. That's the rural version of the broken system. And is just as real as the San Diego version. It's just invisible to the people with the microphone. Landon Donovan wants to fix youth soccer from the top. New structures, better pathways, alignment between clubs and the national system. That matters. We're not dismissing it. But the top-down fix doesn't reach Ukiah. It doesn't reach Willits. It doesn't reach the rural communities where the sport lives and dies on the shoulders of volunteer coaches, overworked directors, and families who drive 2 hours to a game that gets canceled. What fixes it in those communities isn't a new league structure or better development pyramid. It's a program director who sits families down before the season and names a commitment. It's a club that invests in former players and turns them into coaches. It's 2 rural programs that don't have enough players individually deciding to combine their rosters and solve the problem together. That's not a national solution. It's a local one. And local is the only place it actually gets built. Build local before national fails. That's not a slogan. That's the diagnosis. My former teammate ended his message with something that hit close. He said, it seemed like when we were kids, soccer had a lot of momentum. Things have obviously changed. He's right. Things changed. and they change differently in different places. In San Diego, they changed by becoming a product, monetized, professionalized at the youth level, overstructured in ways that burn kids out and price families out. In Ukiah, they changed by becoming invisible. The demographic has shifted. The resources thinned. The infrastructure that was never really there to begin with got even thinner. Both versions produce the same outcome in the end. Kids fall out of the sport. The pipeline breaks. The next generation of coaches and directors never materializes because nobody built the conditions for them to emerge. That's the real crisis. Not the expensive version in San Diego. The invisible version in every rural community that nobody's talking about. Grassroots first exists because somebody has to talk about it. And more than that, somebody has to show what it looks like to actually fix it. If you're running a program in a hard place, rural, underserved, under-resourced, you already know everything I just described. You've lived it. The question isn't whether the system is broken. It clearly is. The question is what you're going to build. The question is what you're going to build in the gap it leaves. The programs that last don't wait for the national solution. They don't wait for Landon Donovan. They build the skeleton underneath the soul of what they're doing. They set expectations with families. They develop coaches from within. They partner creatively with neighbors to solve shared problems. They build local because national already failed. We put together a free guide called Why Most Youth Sports Programs Fail. It walks through the 5 reasons programs don't make it and what the ones that survive actually do differently. It's free, PDF and audio included. Link is in the description. If you're building something in a hard place, this is for you.